That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, I have not had a chance to announce this in a video, but I am so excited to. Okay, so if we hit 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and there's no reason why you wouldn't do that, because when you deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you get our 2021 draft guide, which I would argue is worth at the very minimum $60, $70, and you're getting it. Not only are you quote unquote paying 10 for it, but you're not even losing that $10. You're just moving it from your bank account over to Underdog Fantasy, where then you can enter fantasy football drafts in it. And Underdog is also giving you a free $25 when you do so. Now, what is great beyond this is Underdog told us that if we hit 10,000 signups with promo code FLOCK, they will pay to have 4 or 5 members of the flock come out to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me. We'll also get a custom-made mascot of the flock, which of course would be hilarious if I wore that to the game. We make an entire vlog out of it, and we'll do a Florida flock meetup directly after. So please help us get to that goal. Please take advantage of an offer to play on a fantastic fantasy football site. We draft there every single night. We're live every night on this channel. If you have not already, subscribe, hit the bell next to it. That way you can come out to those live streams and you can get in a draft with us after using promo code FLOCK. But yeah, that should be it for the announcement. We're going to be diving into some running back rankings here. Very excited for it. And let's not waste too much time. Let's recap the first 5 running backs that we have already discussed in great detail before we go to the rest. Maybe we get to 10, maybe we get to 12. I just want to make sure we're giving each running back enough time in this video, so we're not going to rush it at all. But let's recap our top 5 as it stands. Christian McCaffrey at 1, Dalvin Cook at 2, Alvin Kamara at 3, Saquon Barkley at 4, and Derrick Henry at 5. Now, starting off at 6, we're going to have a running back that a lot of other people are going to have way over Saquon Barkley, and I hear you on that one, but we are going to have Ezekiel Elliot. So now I understand, guys, with Ezekiel Elliot, this is a running back that's surprisingly young. So he came out of Ohio State in that 2016 NFL draft class, but with Zeke, he came out at such a young age where he played his entire rookie season at 21 years old to a point where he's still only 26 this year. Now, I will say that it's a little concerning, the amount of touches and the amount of workload that Ezekiel Elliott has already taken on his body, because you actually look at Ezekiel Elliott, and he is currently second in the NFL in career touches, only behind Mark Ingram. And where's Mark Ingram right about now? But I will say Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, he's always been a much better running back than Mark Ingram. Not saying that they're in the same realm whatsoever. I'm just saying that Ezekiel Elliott's really the only running back left standing that has ever seen this amount of work out of this generation of running backs. Now, beyond this with Ezekiel Elliott, what we actually found this past year is a massive drop-off in efficiency, where if you look at the breakaway run rate compared to Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard was actually the more electric running back in this backfield last year. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that Tony Pollard's a better running back. I'm not sitting here telling you that Tony Pollard is the guy that you want in Dallas. What I'm saying is that we're starting to see a trend of Ezekiel Elliott with this type of workload slow down with his efficiency. And I understand, guys, that the situation last year was atrocious. Of course, when his quarterback goes down, he's going to be significantly worse. Of course, when the offensive line suffers injuries, he's going to be significantly worse. But the reason we bring up Tony Pollard is Tony Pollard was playing in that same exact game environment where we actually saw Pollard be slightly more impressive. I don't want to take anything into account that shouldn't necessarily be even spoken for, but with Tony Pollard, at the very minimum, we can be looking at a one-for-one comparison with the same context. Now, going with Zeke and looking at what he's done over the past 3 years, I mean, what we have actually seen is a linear fall off in Ezekiel Elliott with his targets per game, with his carries per game, and also with his overall yards and points per game. So 3 years ago, we actually had Ezekiel Elliott average 22 points a game, elite production. He was the running back 6 in fantasy, a mid running back 1, whereas in 2019, you actually had Ezekiel Elliott falling slightly with a full year of Dak Prescott. Keep that in mind. He had a full year of Dak Prescott in here. He falls under 20 points a game. You see the overall total yards a game. This is the main concerning thing that I'm going to be looking at. You see them drop from 133 total yards a game down to 111. Now, he kind of saves face a little bit with touchdown volume, but keep in mind, guys, we know that touchdowns are going to be the most volatile thing season to season. What you want to be chasing is you want to be chasing that workload. And a big thing also is the workload in the receiving game dropped off. You saw from Ezekiel Elliot that before he was averaging about 6.5 targets per game, which made him a traditional workhorse running back, someone that was getting used in every area of the field and really no red flags about him. But now he actually drops that down to 4.5 targets per game. And going into this last year in 2020, he started off strong when the overall offense was just at a completely unsustainable rate. I mean, there's no way that they scored that many points again this upcoming year when Dak Prescott even is healthy. But you see the numbers dip down, and I will say, guys, of course, it's a bad situation with Ezekiel Elliott trying to be successful in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. But you can't ignore the fact that he does drop down under 90 total yards a game. You can't ignore the fact that he jumps down to being a mid running back too. And while, yes, I think a lot of it's to do with the overall situation that we saw last year in Dallas, I still think there's a slight, just a small concern that Ezekiel Elliott is starting to fall off due to the fact that this is a running back that has seen so many career touches. So yeah, with Zeke, I want to be a little concerned about that. And I don't necessarily think that we can be viewing him in the same tier of a running back that we saw last year in Alvin Kamara, who posted a higher points per game than really any season that Ezekiel Elliott has done over the past 3 seasons. So yeah, Zeke, yes, he has his reasons to bounce back. I don't think he's going to be a mid running back 2 again, but I still don't think he has access to the same type of ceiling from a usage in the receiving game standpoint as a Saquon Barkley or an Alvin Kamara. So now let's get to our next running back. Let's go to running back 7 here. That's going to be a massive riser, Aaron Jones. So we have Aaron Jones as our running back 7, our 9th player overall. The only non-running backs that we currently have ranked ahead of Aaron Jones are going to be Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. And with Aaron Jones, obviously, this is someone that, very similar to Ezekiel Elliott, you look at the past 3 years, he's been an extremely impressive running back. Now with Jones, he came out in the 2017 NFL draft class, but actually still the same age of Ezekiel Elliott. And here you actually look at him in the past 2 seasons, and he was a top 5 running back each year. And what's very intriguing here with a player like Aaron Jones is this is someone that's not getting used with every single down, not getting every single touch in his backfield like you'd find from a more traditional running back. That's going to be a bell cow guy. But anyway, Aaron Jones is the next breed of elite fantasy running back. We've discussed this so many times before that both Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara, they set the blueprint for what we are looking for in fantasy, and that you can kind of ignore those touches between the 20-yard lines when they are being rushes. It didn't matter with Aaron Jones over the past 2 years that Jamal Williams was getting the carries between the 20-yard lines, because those carries between the 20-yard lines don't matter whatsoever. What matters is the usage in the receiving game and the usage in the red zone. If you have those 2 traits that very few running backs possess that aren't going to get used in every area of the football field, but you look at both Alvin Kamara with Latavius Murray getting the carries between the 20s and Aaron Jones with Jamal Williams getting the carries between the 20s, and you see that they are each elite assets even with losing out on some of their workload. Now, what I'm concerned with Alvin Kamara is with Jamal Williams leaving. Jamal Williams was never a concern for either area of the game that matters for Aaron Jones. But now A.J. Dillon is actually going to be replacing Jamal Williams. And if you don't know a lot about A.J. Dillon, all I need to tell you is he was a 2nd-round pick last year. He was selected right in the same range of the draft as a Cam Akers, a J.K. Dobbins. This team has a ton invested into him. And on top of this, A.J. Dillon is the same size as Derrick Henry. So I'm looking at that going, okay, A.J. Dillon, an elite level athlete. He is ridiculous in terms of his size. There's a slight concern. There's a slight red flag that A.J. Dillon actually gets usage in the red zone and he gets carries at the goal line. Now, if that's going to happen, I think you have to drop Aaron Jones down slightly, which is why Aaron Jones is not going to be a top 5 running back for us. Because if this situation was the exact same, it was Jamal Williams and it was not A.J. Dillon, there we know. Hell, I mean, Aaron Jones getting every touch at the goal line. Let's go out there and let's rank him in the top 5. So now let's go to our next running back. Someone else that if you're coming out to the live streams every night, you've seen me draft a decent amount of times. It's going to be Austin Ekeler. Okay, so Austin Ekeler, we currently have ranked as our 8th player overall. Our 8th running back overall and our 10th player overall. Now, Ekeler, just like these other guys, 26 years old. Now, with Austin Ekeler, it's a little bit different with the thesis on why you're really excited about him this upcoming year. The first thing that I'll say is if you look at his 2020 numbers, they're going to be a little bit skewed given the fact that he actually left games early due to an injury. Whereas if you go through and you just remove the games where he left early due to that injury, instead, he was actually very in line with what you had from him in 2019, where Austin Ekeler was a mid running back 1 in fantasy. And obviously that is massive. And now what is so great about Austin Ekeler going into this next season is this is a player that is getting possibly the biggest upgrade in the NFL at offensive line. And this is going to be the best quarterback that he's ever played with. So you look at Austin Ekeler, you go, okay, this is a running back that should continue to be a mid running back 1. I mean, that's what we saw with the situation the past 2 years. Now you're telling me that the overall offense is going to be the best overall offense he's ever played in. So I don't know exactly how you take this. Of course, he's going to have more opportunities for touchdowns, given the fact that this team's going to be moving the ball down the field. Maybe they slow the game down just slightly and get into less 2-minute drill situations where they're having to continue to just dump it off to Austin Ekeler. Now, I don't necessarily know where we stand on that, but I will say with Ekeler, you don't necessarily see the same type of upside that you have with an Aaron Jones or with an Ezekiel Elliot due to their frames. So Ekeler, probably a safer option out of the two, to be completely honest, but I don't think he has the upside, and that is why we are going to be having to move him down. Okay, so now let's get our next running back up here and talk about upside. This is going to be a pure upside play. I know a lot of people are going to hate this. We are going to have Antonio Gibson. So if there's one thing that I want you to remember from this entire video, it's that we at the Fantasy Flock Network are significantly higher on Antonio Gibson than consensus. If you go through, you actually see that we currently have him ranked at 13 overall in our 2021 rankings in PPR formats. And here with Antonio Gibson, extremely young, 23 years old, and I want to go back and look at him at Memphis because obviously this was a running back that came into the NFL draft last year as a wide receiver, and people didn't necessarily know how he was going to translate to running the ball between the tackles. Now at the Fantasy Flock Network, we understand that people who try to sit there and watch the all 22 tape and try to quote unquote grind the film when their day job is just being an accountant, they're just wasting their time. And instead we like focusing in on things that actually matter. And we presented this historical research in that Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, which you will get if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And what we actually identified for running backs coming into the NFL that really matters to translate to fantasy production is you need the size to be a 3-down guy. You need the speed to have great efficiency when you do see the open hole. You also need the passing game ability to rack up those PPR formats, and you need the team investment to get a shot at the starting job. So we go through and we look at every single one of those boxes. We go, okay, Antonio Gibson, a massive running back. Okay, so Antonio Gibson, one of the best athletes in the NFL. Okay, with Antonio Gibson, a former wide receiver. So of course he has the passing down capability. And then lastly, he gets drafted in the 3rd round by Washington. So you know he has the team investment to be a starting running back. That's why last year we were higher than anybody else on Antonio Gibson. That's why this year we're higher on anybody else than Antonio Gibson, because you go through and obviously the season numbers are skewed for Gibson, who was a mid running back 2 last year, his rookie year, based on the fact that his usage kind of fluctuated as the season went on based on the toe injury that he suffered at the end. So with Gibson, there were a couple different things that made it where we can't just look at his raw numbers from 2020 and go, okay, this is what we can expect. Maybe we give him 10, 15% more for him developing in his second year. But what we're actually going to be looking at Gibson is the fact that he had one question mark coming into the NFL that a lot of people didn't know. People asked, can the former wide receiver learn how to run between the tackles? Because we know the former wide receiver can catch the ball. Oh, that's obvious. And what Antonio Gibson proved year 1 was that he was great at running the ball between the tackles. He was actually used as a 1st and 2nd down grinder his rookie season. The reason he didn't get on the field in passing downs is because he's a former wide receiver. He didn't necessarily know just how to protect a quarterback with pass blocking, which of course is, expected. We should have been a little bit more aware of that, and I shouldn't necessarily have just completely discounted J.D. McKissic like we did last year. But now you actually have Antonio Gibson, who we know has the size to be a great pass blocker. He gets all this time to develop through training camp. He gets to figure out how to do that. And I think this upcoming season, we're going to see him unlocked in the passing game as well. And we have a full video breaking down why I think that you're going to see Antonio Gibson take the same leap that David Johnson did going into his second year. We know David Johnson, a very similar player. a massive running back that was an elite pass catcher of the football. I think you're going to see that same jump in his second year where David Johnson broke fantasy football. That's why we have Antonio Gibson ranked to a point where if you're going off our draft guide, if you're going off your rankings, I mean, you are going to be drafting Antonio Gibson in almost every single league that you pick near the end of the first round. So now let's get to a running back that I know a lot of people are screaming at me going, Mason, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? We're going to have him ranked significantly further down the boards than most people. Now I'll say with the Nick Chubb, yes, he has a higher floor than an Antonio Gibson. Nick Chubb, very similar to a Derrick Henry that we talked about in the last video. This is a running back that if you're just ranking the best running backs in the NFL, you're going, okay, Mason, who are the most talented guys are running the football? I'm going, okay, Nick Chubb has to be top 3. Nick Chubb maybe has an argument to be made that he is the best pure running back in the entire NFL. And alongside this, we know that Nick Chubb's running behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL on a team that really wants to run the ball. So, of course, we can acknowledge all of that. He gets a great contract extension this offseason, which we've said he's getting all offseason. We told y'all that Nick Chubb was not playing this year under that rookie deal because he's too good of a running back. But at the same time, we need to have the capability of understanding the difference between real life talent and fantasy value. Because I hate to say this in so many videos, but it's something that people don't understand. There's a difference between real life and fantasy. Fantasy football is called fantasy football because it's fake. We are playing a game on top of a game. So when PPR points matter, when you actually have points per reception, Nick Chubb has to drop down because we go through, you look at Nick Chubb's usage the past 2 seasons. So Chubb in 2019, I know it's going to look just kind of thrown off here because Nick Chubb in 2019 does average 3 targets a game. But what's really funny is we have to remember that Kareem Hunt was suspended for the first half of the year. So if you go through, if you remove those games by Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb actually averages, instead of 3 targets a game, he drops down to like 1.3 receptions per game. And this past year, Nick Chubb is at that same exact mark. Nick Chubb only averages 1.5 targets per game. So having absolutely no usage whatsoever in the receiving game has to dramatically drop Nick Chubb down your draft board, given the fact that just say Nick Chubb goes out there, Nick Chubb has a great day running the football. He goes for 100 yards. He scores a touchdown. And he catches 1 ball for 4 yards, which is a very standard Nick Chubb line. And I think you see that. And what's going to happen, I'm telling you this right now. What is going to happen week 1 is Nick Chubb is going to go out there. He's going to rush for 110 yards. He's going to rush for a touchdown as well. He's going to catch a ball for 4 yards. And then you do some quick math. Okay, 110 yards, that's 11 points. A touchdown, that's 17. Catching a ball, that's 18 of another 4 yards. That's 18.4 points. Okay, Nick Chubb's going to have 18.4 points in week 1. And people are going to be coming out to my live streams going, Mason, you fool. You didn't know what you were talking about at all. Look at where you ranked Nick Chubb. You ranked Antonio Gibson over him. And Antonio Gibson's going to go out there and instead he's going to have 90 rushing yards. Not going to look as pretty doing it either, but he's going to pick up 30 receiving yards. He's going to pick up a touchdown. He's going to pick up 2 or 3 receptions. And all of a sudden you do some math there. You go, okay, well, Antonio Gibson cracked 20 points. Yeah, it didn't look as pretty. Yeah, you don't see him leading the NFL in rushing yards, but fantasy points are fantasy points. They are fake. Understand that Nick Chubb can be one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, and you still don't have to rank him as someone that's going to be over those guys catching passes like an Aaron Jones, like an Austin Ekeler, like an Antonio Gibson. Understand your format, and points per reception matter. So now let's go to our next running back. Let's talk about Joe Mixon here. So I know we're going to be aggressive in our rank with Joe Mixon, where right now we actually have Mixon in our overall rankings at 17, only 1 spot behind Nick Chubb. And here with Joe Mixon, the thesis is we understand that this is a running back that can catch passes. Whenever he's been utilized in the receiving game, he's been a very capable running back. Now, the reason why he hasn't been used in the receiving game every single year like you would want to see is due to Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard has been close to 3 to 4 targets a game every single year since Joe Mixon's came into the NFL. And despite Giovanni Bernard getting 3 to 4 targets a game, Joe Mixon has still, over the past 3 years, gotten close to averaging, combined over the past 3 years, 4 targets a game. So you do some quick math here. You go, okay, Well, Giovanni Bernard's gone. Now Joe Mixon's going to get every single touch in this backfield. Now, combine this with the fact that Cincinnati, while they didn't go out there, they didn't draft Penny Sewell in the first round, they didn't completely overhaul their offensive line. They did make small improvements to it, so they slightly improved their offensive line. He's going to have the best quarterback of his entire career. He's going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, making where opposing defenses can't stack the box against them. So you're telling me Joe Mixon is going to get the most touches in his NFL career. He's going to be playing in the best offense in his NFL career. He's going to be playing behind the best offensive line in his NFL career. Joe Mixon is going to be a running back 1 in fantasy this year. I really want to rank Joe Mixon over Nick Chubb. I don't know if I can do it just based on the fact where we know that Joe Mixon's going so much later than Nick Chubb. If you're going off those rankings, I mean, we know your league mates are going to laugh at you, even though if you're playing in a full PPR format, I think that you have an argument to be made. We're still going to have Mixon at 12. We're going to have Nick Chubb at 11. But Joe Mixon, a great pick this year. Now, thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, if y'all did go down there, drop a like. And if you want to hop in a draft with us on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use promo code FLOCK. Come out to a live stream. Get your $25. Get our draft guide with all our rankings. And yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes. And have a great day. We've gotten a ton of new members joining the flock. Thank you, Grind for Gold, Devin, Bungified, Brian, Brody, Victor, Chris, Grant, Trevor, and David. Thank you, my dudes.